Well, artificial intelligence is a consequence of advanced technology. So it must be viewed as a good thing to begin with, as opposed to a threat. Artificial intelligence is man made, so it's neither smarter than man, nor can it ever become smarter than the ones who made it. As well, artificial intelligence has its limitations, so study them. Artificial intelligence is here to stay. Get used to it, for it's the wave of the future. So, it is imperative that you know its strengths and weaknesses in order to remain relevant and in front of it, as well as to best utilize and have maximum benefit. How to have a leg up on artificial intelligence with employment and education, which is the subject of this podcast. The system of education in our schools is too short on experience and too heavy on logic. Many professors have begun losing their jobs to AI because upon entering the classroom, by and large, they're quoting from authors instead of having original material to share, from their own experience. So overnight, material becomes old, stale. It's memory. Memory is old. You can't create a single thing from memory. So, like I keep saying to people, thinking is an activity. You have to stop to think. If your mind is acting on its own, you're not in control of it. So the strength of AI, artificial intelligence, lies largely in computation and permutation. It is logic based with notable strengths, computing, which is the way you calculate, and permutating, which is the way you organize. So therefore, AI is able to perform multiple tasks having to do with numerical sequencing and ordering and organizing and delivering of services or products much faster and more accurately than any number of human beings. For human beings can make mistakes. They're not alert, 24/7 at the peak. Machines know. They just keep going, 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 and you just keep oiling and greasing, changing parts and repairing. The weakness of artificial intelligence is knowledge by way of experience. So that is the point of this message. Logic with the use of the five common senses is only one of the two ways of perception. And logic is outward bound. It is limited to capturing data from outside. So it cannot determine how a person either thinks, feels, or experiences because those things occur from within a person and are driven by consciousness and awareness, not logic. If you were in the laboratory where you cut open a frog, you'd be limited to knowing the frog in its material aspects only. However, once you cut the frog, you dissect it, you'd no longer be able to have a relationship with it. That's the limit of logic. It is like a scalpel. You want your intellect to be very sharp because it's a cutting instrument, but it's not made for stitching. It's limited to logic. So it's not made to conceptualize the whole thing, um, to experience the whole thing. So, however, like I said, once you cut the frog, you're no longer able to have a relationship with it, which would then deny you knowledge by way of experiencing the behavior of the frog. The other way of perception then is to acquire knowledge through the experience of a relationship. other than logic, this is the only other way you can perceive with either a person or thing. Given a hypothetical, this is how you'd know a prostitute. Knowledge strictly by way of experience without any need for any down understanding. The experience of a relationship through a one night stand, yeah, without understanding or good reasoning. This knowledge could make you culpable if it were illegal in a court of law. So this is knowledge where we have experienced knowledge is legal. Not only so, but it is spiritual knowledge. Given the transference of karma and perhaps the exchanging of bodily fluids in the case of a prostitute. So knowledge by experience is also the way and the only way to know God, who is spirit in nature, non-physical. So logic is limited to the physical realm and the things of a physical nature. Since God cannot be known through logic, one has to surrender to the process of knowing God. There's no other way. To surrender is not a weak concept here. You know God through the experience of having a relationship with Him or her. Knowledge by experience is also the way you know the nature of your own existence, the way you think, feel, and experience. All of which occur from inside yourself. You capture data from inside with a third eye. So in conclusion, the way to have a leg up on artificial intelligence with employment and education is to 1. Change the way you think about education. It would not wait for belief system, I would not, for belief system of education to come up to speed. For the system is top heavy on logic. There's a whole generation of people already caught up in it, and thereby memorization of data. And what are you going to do with them? So you have to start with the next generation, and they are only toddlers, children. Wait for the system to become AI ready is to start with the next generation, preparing those students and future generations. Expect formal education in beliefs for a long time to come, as well as the society to continue discriminating in prioritizing the getting of degrees, and specific professions, like, they celebrate doctoring, lawyering, and so on. But really, the tapa is engineering. Yeah. So in which cases, you then continue, towing the line if you follow society's way and the system of education, going along with the status quo. However, what every child needs, in my opinion, is solid preschool, primary school, and I would go as far as say high school education. For to my mind, all of these or those together form basic education. After high school, then, is where I'd be careful. It becomes trickier because you begin to look for a career ambition. This is where the more experience you've had on the ground, up to that point, when you're graduating high school, the better. The closer you should have been to knowing then yourself, who you are, you're trending, finding your niche, your unique lane, for you are a one-of-a-kind individual. So there's something that you're passionate about, that you love doing, to where you don't know where the time goes, and so you only have to become most competent in that specific lane, that field. So you can make whatever the world needs, create whatever the world needs, that product. So that lane that is unique to you, so as to pursue becoming most competent, not a copycat, in that field. More importantly, that you narrow it down to where your stiffest competition becomes yourself. You're becoming the better and better and best version of yourself. Yeah, so you establish your own product and brand, becoming a better and better version of yourself. Like I said, every day. Three persons that readily come to mind, three or four, you know, are people who have come on this show. Dr. Yvonne McFadden would be one of them. She did her PhD thesis recently, as an older woman with grandchildren. And she did her thesis practical there in southern Belize, studying persons with various kinds of disabilities. Of course, she'd been a director in this field in the United States. And she stumbled into it because there's one student in her class. Then she went and studied all upon it. But go and examine the best version of her self-presentation and you'll see the details of it. But together with this, they have a foundation going, named after dad, So she specifically deals with persons with disabilities, and she narrows down the categories, because we talk about it so broadly in society, but she knows specifically what each patient has specifically. Additionally, like I said, they have the Pablo Lambe Foundation. Wilma here is another person who comes to mind. He's a philanthropist, he's a community-minded person, a genius, has his own businesses. Yeah, community activist, started the environmental NGO. He's a fisherman. He sees as a sport, but he's a fisherman too. He started Belize Territorial Volunteer Movement. Who traverses South Stoon every year, expedition, and the surrounding waters there. So he helps us with this, helps the country with this. It's our territory. Darn it, who can stop us from traversing our own territory? So he started a TV station down there in PG. Yeah, things he could patent and more. And he started. There's a famous liquor. I can't wait to taste it. That they started created down there. Wilma Here brand. Darius Avila is another person that comes to mind readily, and not to say he started a political party that Wilma Here. Very diverse fellow. Darius Avila is another creator genius, businessman, community activist, social worker. He has his own hotel, his own consultancy, but he's the man behind Battle of the Drums, the pioneer, together with his mom. So instead of quarreling about politics, he looks at the economics of the Garifuna unique product and brand. And so he's taken that culture through the Battle of the Drums to forming a huge volunteer organization of drummers, clothing designers, musicians, linguists, many other, and each in their own lane, growing their own economy. There's no threat. So that's the point. Driving the economy. Don't bothering too much with the haggling with politics. So the Garifuna product of language, culture, cuisine, music, and dance is what he's driving. This lane that I have created, partiality, one obviously unique to myself in its infancy, yet it still is. However, by the time my grandchildren finish high school, oh my, it'll be $1 million product. Not that I'm chasing the money, but it's there, and they will need it. They don't to take whatever I'm doing to another level. So they don't need to look for jobs they won't need. When that time comes, they will already have one. This thinking is not new, Think of the Mennonites from the time they migrated to Belize. They've engaged in this practice. They only send their children half day to school generally, and the other half day from infancy they're there in the family business, making either furniture, farming, in the poultry business, or what have you. So there are the experiences that AI cannot duplicate. Experience. Whenever technology comes along, McFadson's grandchildren, Darius's, Wilma Here's, the Mennonites, my own, will be able to climb on the shoulders of our grandchildren be able to climb on our shoulders, taking the business to another level with technology. The Mennonites don't follow society's way of thinking. They don't put themselves under that kind of pressure. No, they always wanted jasmine in their gardens, to grow in their gardens. But you know what? They thought ingredients. See? So that's the thing to realize, that the ingredients are equally important as the finished product. So instead of setting goal, for a goal is a finish line, not a starting place, they think, okay, soil, sunlight, water, air, and space. The five elements. How can you go wrong? A goal is, like I said, a finish line, not a starting place. So you don't need to be setting that. The most important step is the one in front of you. And in conclusion, most in the Belizean society want to inhabit front street. The Mennonites instead take no offense to big land. The same thing society in Belize call bush. They see gold. So say they are visionaries looking down the road, future. So instead of so-called raising your children, my friend, because you only raise cattle, you should nurture and inspire them. So creating the environment so they come into their own, turn on their creator genius. For everybody has one, and find their niche, that lane that is unique to themselves, in order that they become the best version of themselves, creating a product that Belize and the world needs. That will be all. Have a good one.